Hey, everybody, welcome back. Pull up a chair because today we are talking to Dana Haines. Dana, she's a healer. She has a lot of different healing modalities under her belt. And growing up, she was one who kind of struggled to understand what she was experiencing with the supernatural and spirit. And as an adult, she then began to dive into a lot of different spiritual practices, and she also runs a Facebook group for grieving parents and those wanting to connect with life after life. So today we're going to talk to her and explore how her healing practice has evolved following the loss of her own son. And she's gained a lot of different insights about maintaining spiritual health and how she supports others in healing. So, Dana, thanks so much for joining us today. How are you?
Hello. So good. Thank you.
Good. I think we're all curious because you've mentioned to me before that you grew up in a really strict household. You have an ex-nun for a mom, and you felt like you had an awareness of the spirit world early on, but that you needed to kind of keep it under wraps. So tell us what brought you to the point of kind of opening yourself up to the spirit world and how you became a healer.
I mean, I always dabbled in things. And when I was young, I knew there was something going on, but didn't know what. I don't want to say like just one thing opened me up because I really feel all along I was just into something supernatural, but couldn't really put my finger on it without thinking I'm going to go to the really hot place, I guess, below the earth and fry there. Or if I touched a Ouija board or a deck of cards, I was terrified. Pendulums, oh my gosh. So I, it, later in life, I started dabbling and felt a little naughty all the time and eventually went on a somewhat of a spiritual retreat. It really was more campy related, but started to really open up. And the reason I'm telling you this for the smorgasbord effect was it was everything there. They had numerology, they had a medium, they had, someone channeling, someone talking to angels. And I was like, I must do all of this. I went home, I bought books. I literally have books. And I'm like, who can teach me anything? And it started. I literally dabbled in, astrology. I must learn the phases of the moon. And then I realized, you're not good at math. This numerology is not going to work out for you. And so it's just like little things. Some things would stick, some things wouldn't. And so what did stick was the base of what I started doing was a practice in shamanism that is rooted in the Andes tradition in Peru, where it's very earth based and it was also commingled with, I guess, some Native American. Now that I look back, that's really not in the books, what my teacher was teaching me. But I really enjoyed it, and I really liked doing things like shamanic journeys and soul retrievals. And then it just started to branch off into, let me get back into my cards. I always dabbled in cards and tarot and all of that. But something caught my eye on a meetup, and it was a medium circle. And I didn't know about a medium circle, and it was local, and you could drive to it. So it'd be 30 minutes. And I went there, and I remember just being, that was literally like blowing me away because to not believe like what the evidence that some people were getting. And it was a mix of people were new and they were, seasoned. And I was blown away. And I was like, I didn't think I could do it, but I was getting just enough little pieces to keep me going. So that was it. And just kept going to circle and started learning like, hey, there's teachers out there, there's courses, there's a whole Arthur Finley College, there's all kinds of, resources for that avenue of the mediumship. And so the evidence is what stood out for me. And I was like, I want to get really good at, or attempt to get good at evidence and talking to the other side where I know I'm solid. And that's where we're started. So yes, and I can do all the energy healings and amazing things. But I love mediumship just for the evidence of it.
So all of these modalities you have, you took them and you put them into a retreat format, let's say. So tell us, what is a healing retreat?
Yeah. So I was attending some retreats and then they just stopped, the ones I was kind of following. And I had actually gone to a psychic who was like, you're going to do retreats. And I'm like, that sounds like a lot of work. I don't want to do that. But then I thought, I could kind of dabble in the retreats because I had such a great paying job that I could just, I didn't need the money. So I started doing the retreats and I was like, I want to do a retreat the way I want to feel when I'm done. I want to feel like we didn't just sit around and play Scrabble. I want to feel like I feel the energy shift, the energy move. And so I feel like the retreat format's gotten better over the years because it's been like 9 years. I find that one thing people get confused is they think all retreats are the same. And when you see a yoga retreat, it's a yoga retreat. Okay, you're going to do yoga, you're going to surf, you're going to go to the gift shop. Like, that is not a spiritual quantum leap in your energetic field kind of a retreat experience. So I'm very picky about wording and people loosely calling. And there are business retreats, because I'm in some groups on the internet and they're like, yeah, I have a retreat. It's in Bali and we're going to surf and we're going to eat ceviche. I'm like, that is not a retreat.
It sounds like fun, but you're right. It's probably not quite the healing retreat that you're envisioning.
I don't work that way. I like to work. So each retreat works with an element and it will work with the spiritual forces of nature as how I was trained. So I ended up getting trained further in the Peruvian tradition from literal descendants of the Inca. The last living descendants of the Inca live at, I don't want to misquote, like maybe 15,000 feet elevation in the mountains. And they fled up there, of course, when the Spaniards came and infiltrated and tried to colonize them. And that's because nobody could get up there. And so they still live up there, but all they have is nature to heal. There's no hospital, there's no doctor. So if you need something fixed, you're going to the medicine person. So I was very fascinated by training with them. And I do a lot of those modalities. It's just all about working with nature and working with the spirits of the land. And so that's been amazing. So I incorporate that into all the retreats where we're doing offerings to nature. And it's called a High One Weekly, and it's wonderful. And everyone enjoys it. And it's just something you just feel so connected to Pachamama, Mother. And Pachamama is Mother Nature, not Mother Earth. Mother Earth is Mama Alpa in that tradition.
It sounds fascinating. There's so many different ways we can achieve healing, right? And you're an example of, oh, well, I have 100 of them at my disposal here. It sounds like. But I want to talk about, though, how you went from your offering healing, and then you've not too long ago actually had a profound loss in your own life. How did it feel to go from being the healer to someone in need of healing?
Yeah, it was finally my time to test all of these modalities. Literally, I think that now. I didn't say that at the time. So I lost my 20-year-old son in 2021. He was a fentanyl poisoning, and like your world just crashes. You don't know which end is up. And the last thing I'm thinking about is, let's do a meditation. I'm on my knees just saying, you know what, take me out. I'm done here. I'm done on this planet. I don't want to be here. This is just awful. And just trying to get off the floor. Literally, you can't eat, nothing. And so all of my healing friends, I was like, I need healing now. Like, I don't think I could do it to myself, because I always thought, should people be paying others to heal? Literally, I always thought that, like, you can heal yourself because you really can. And I'm a big advocate of that. And that's what the retreats are about. Take your power back. You can heal yourself. Listen, I couldn't help nobody. I didn't even have enough lung capacity to breathe, let alone anything. So I started calling on my friends, and luckily at the time we were moving to Sedona, literally full-time Sedona. And we, got here, and I was like, told my husband, I'm going to sign up for anything out here, whether it's a gong healing, breath work, anything you can come up with. And I just every day would pay the money and go and have somebody work on me, honestly. And also my wonderful Kiro Nation friends, they did a healing called an animal wakai, which was crazy. I was training, literally mid-training on that procedure where you call a piece of your soul that's fragmented off in the tradition. Do I feel a soul fragments? Not really, but it's more of a just an analogy, like a piece of you feels like it's missing. So it's called an animal wakai. And I was scheduled literally to have one. It was crazy. And I said, oh yeah, I'll take it, because it's not going to work. I am never going to offer it. I'm never going to offer it. So I got it done on me. And that was the first night I slept through the night. So does it heal you overnight? No, nothing is going to, snap your fingers, especially from something like that. It's just little layers on the onion just get peeled back and peeled back. So every time you get an energetic healing or whatever it is you're doing, a little more comes off you. It's almost like we're just chipping the ice away or something, just. And so
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you, and prayer, when you pray for people, when people are like, my church is praying for you, I can tell you there was some days where I would say, I'm on the floor crying and all of a sudden you stop, and I'm like, I feel okay right now. Why do I feel okay? I would text people. I'm like, did you just send me something? And they'd say, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm okay in this moment. I'm okay right now. Thank you. Keep it going.
So it's almost like you had this reassurance of this energy work does really work. You've been giving it for a while, but now as the receiver, you're on the other end of that and I can feel that healing. And I find that very fascinating too, being on both sides of the healing, giving the healing and receiving that too. It really does help you see the magic, I want to say, in this journey that we're all on. And I feel like we have similar kind of stories. I lost my son as well, but I was not giving professional healings before that. And so there's a little bit of difference there for myself. And so I had to heal myself first entirely before I could then offer it to other people. And so it seems like you kind of went through the same process. You were giving it, but then you needed that healing. You had to heal yourself first before you could take it back up. Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what was even more crazy is one of my bigger retreats, it was 60 people, was 3 months after losing my son. And I had to get it together. And I told my husband, I said, I can't cancel that. And I'm gonna do it. And I felt like a strong wind could have blown me over at any given moment. Like I would have fallen, a soft wind actually would have blown me over, but I got through it.
Listening to you talk, Dana, I was thinking like I've only seen you a few times, but the energy of your group, so I kind of wanted to take direction to your group. It really speaks to who you are, because one thing I've noticed at working in the spiritual space, it's not always that spiritual sometimes. And your group provides help for parents in grief, but equally, you're very welcoming of mediums to come and volunteer their time for this mission. And I just love that. And you can feel the energy when you're there. And it's so helpful for the parents. So the question I guess I had for you, it makes sense like hearing your story about diving into all the different things. I'm kind of wired like that too. I just wonder, like, after your profound loss, doing what you do you feel like there's something particularly that has changed about the way you approach this work now? And also, do you see anything in the parents that you help that you can just get to a different level at because you share the similarity?
So one of the main things that I noticed as a medium after you lose somebody like a child is your whole mediumship will change. And how it was before is I love telling people how their loved one passed away. So if I'm going to get a cause of passing now, it has to be really pertinent and there's a reason for it. So for example, when I get a cause of passing, or if I can't get a cause, like I kind of look and I'm like, what's going on there? I almost always know that they caused their own passing. They don't want to talk about it. And so, and I'll mention it. I'll say, I don't think your son or daughter wants to talk about their passing. And they'll say, I understand. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it's way more meaningful to not have that evidence. And I think as a newer medium, or someone not as seasoned or whatever you want to call it, you just don't know until you're in the shoes. So I feel I'm such, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but I do feel like I'm a better medium because I lost someone.
Yeah.
It really is. It's kind of like just having like a OBGYN that actually birthed a child, as opposed to just honestly, someone who never did, you just want to know like they've gone through this, they
Well, it
know.
makes sense with like who you are and just your story that you started with. Like you had to know what all these different modalities were. You had to get your hand in it and do it for yourself. So then experiencing this kind of loss, and then you turn it into something empowering, which is also what you offer in your retreats.
Yeah. And the group was actually started. I was in other groups online and I saw people asking like, do you know a reputable medium? Like they're charging like X amount, like a lot of money. And I just thought, gosh, there's so many grieving moms. Why don't I just do some readings for them? I can brush up on, because I've been away from it for a chunk of time. And I thought, just do free readings just to get my feet wet again and maybe give them some comfort. And so I started asking some of those moms in those other groups, I'm happy to just do some free ones if you want, like kind of practice and see what we get. And they were like, yeah, I'd love it. And they started telling their friends. And then like more people would be like, oh yeah, this girl's doing free ones over here. And so I told my daughter, like, can you start organizing these? I'm doing them on Saturday nights. And we got a little Facebook group going, but I'm getting a little confused who was on the last one. She said, Mom, can you please just do a Facebook group? And I was like, I really don't want to run a group. And she was like, I can't deal with these messages. The women in it, these moms, I mean, they would do anything for you. They're amazing in there. They're just, we're so blessed that they're just embraced. And I know Carol's in there, and it's been wonderful. And then I went into my community, and so I told Tony Stockwell, I was doing his mentorship, his trans mentorship at the time. I said, I've got so many people that want readings. And he said, why don't you reach out to your friends and get them to help? And so I started asking other mediums. I'm like, would you donate some time? No one says no, you know?
Yeah.
And then they'd say, what, we can do readings for them. We'll give them discounts. And I was like, oh, are you kidding me? How amazing, because the other groups I'm in, there's no discount. It's like, listen, we got you. We're booked up for years. You can get a reading in, 2030 and it's, $1,000. So you can get a great medium reading for $100. You can get a great one.
So I think for me, community is a big part of healing for when I need healing. Like there's times when I want to go hide away and just kind of, lick my wounds myself, I guess. But then there's times where I really want somebody who can relate to my experience and help me heal in that way. Going through it with somebody else, to me, I find very, again, healing. So what other things, Dana, do you think are important ways to heal yourself, let's say?
One of the things I'm big on when I teach people on retreat is before your feet touch the ground in the morning, first thing is to connect to the divine. You've got to connect to a higher power, the thing that's growing your nails, fingernails, anything you want to call it, source, God, anything. And that does not involve looking at your phone. So, even put on a little track, of music and just listen to it and just picture yourself one with the universe. There's so many ways you can do it. There's guided meditations out there. There's so much on YouTube. Even if you just did a 10-minute or a chakra balancing or anything, just to start the day on a positive note. I also love to tell people, and I do this myself, we all have stuff that weighs on us first thing in the morning, like, oh my God, I got to do this. And this has been, the girl said something mean to me yesterday. I do a play on The Artist's Way with Julia Cannon. And that's where you journal, but I call it junk journaling, where you just unload your brain for a page. So you just take a page in your notebook and just put everything troubling you, just junk. And then you can actually write some positive things, like everything's going to come to me. I love positive statements. I'm always telling the universe what I want. This is what's going to happen. Here's what I want. And just putting my order to the universe. And also a few things you're appreciative of. The word gratitude is we nixed it. I follow Abraham Hicks, and I agree with the thought of when you're grateful for something, it almost feels like you just now deserved it. You didn't before, but now you got it. And it's like, it means that the universe isn't plentiful for everybody, to me. So the word, I'm appreciative of a sunny day. I'm appreciative that I have an overflowing bank account. I'm appreciative of my health. So you just appreciate because it's always there. It's assumed that you always have it is a better. So if you can write appreciation statements, would be a great way to start the day. Just that little change, it's a shift in frequency so that your day, because things are going to happen to you all day long. People are going to come for you, car could run out of gas and, your dog, whatever, is sick. Who knows? So it's almost like putting on a little shield of armor in the morning. What can you do to get that shield of armor on for the day? Connect to the divine and connect to nature. Go outside. If it's warm enough and you can walk and ground your feet on the ground is so wonderful to do some earthing.
I do a lot of deep coaching. So that's people where, in an essence, you're saying people want to live rather than exist, right? And a lot of times in grief, we just exist.
Yes, Anthony.
And then suddenly you kind of wake up and you're like, I'm sick of existing. I want to live. But it doesn't have to be grief as well. I have clients who, for all, purposes in the world, they have everything. But there's something inside in them that they can't put their finger on that's missing. And then that's why they come to deep coaching, because they feel that they're just existing, they're not living. Like you're speaking there, and I was like, geez, Dana's using a lot of the same spiritual tools that I do. And I love as well that you speak about, people need to find their power from within themselves, and no one is going to hand that power to them. So these spiritual tools that you're speaking about there, are they the tools that you kind of speak and tell people about to help them empower themselves?
Yes, exactly.
It's a form of deep coaching without calling it deep coaching.
I gotta check that out, Anthony. It sounds amazing. Yeah, I agree with you. It's your frequency. Your frequency, and it determines everything. So if you're in a low vibe, you're gonna stay low vibe, and the body craves familiarity. So if you're grieving, your body wants to stay stuck. You have to climb out of it. You have to climb, and like you said, on anything trauma. I actually had a really traumatic childhood. That's probably why I got into all the healing to begin with, to work on that. And then I got this new layer of drama that dumped on the top. So if I hadn't done all that work, I don't know where I'd be, with the grief process. But there's a lot of, moms who lose a child that just want to give up, and they're happy just existing. And, they say they are, but they're not, they're not sleeping, they're not eating, and they're in poor health. And that's no way to live.
I love the idea of them going to your group as their first step to kind of that shift from existing to suddenly living.
And I feel like, and I've talked about it, that we as healers are helping people learn to coexist with that grief. So it's not just existing, it's coexisting as you live your life, as you move forward. And I think that's what we have to offer here between us all. We have just a lot of different modalities, a lot of different ways to help people learn to do that. It's going to be very personal to everybody, what fits for you. So I think it's great to check out different people, different healers, let's say, and find the thing that works for you.
I mean, there's a spiritual worker for everybody, right? And sometimes we like different ones for different reasons, and we have more than one. And that's another thing I like about the group, because when you give the free readings to the moms, like they would have a different experience with Carol than they would with Dana, but it doesn't make one less than the other. And I think people are like that. And I think you guys probably agree, like we're all different and the way we heal is different. And I think people just want to know that you're a person too. Like, how do you feel about that, Dana, with the moms know you share a certain type of grief with them, right? And like Carol was saying earlier, there's a familiarity there that builds like more of a trust. And I think just in this type of work, I think it is important for people to realize that life is always going to be up and down. Like we're going to have good and bad, and that's okay. So it's not always like 100% magic. And so how do you help support your clients with that kind of thing? Because I'm sure you see one mom one day and the next day they're having a rough day, and you can relate to that.
I wanted to talk about the different modalities for people and what works and what doesn't work. Is one of the reasons I took on so many different modalities is because I was raised Catholic. There was only one way. It was that way or the highway. And there was no learn about Buddhism. And so I really feel like that's why I wanted to try all of it. Because it's like it's a whole new world, like that Disney song, it's a whole new world. And I feel like that for grievers too, or anybody working with any of you guys for coaching, when you mix different things up, it's going to resonate differently with different people. A mom might really respond to sound healing, but when I do breath work on them, oh my gosh, you could move like it's like doing a year of therapy. It feels like on a lot of people, and some people hate it. And that's why I tell them on retreats, I offer a smorgasbord on retreat, because you may just eat the breath work. So every day at 10 a.m., you're going to skip, and that's fine. Come to the sound healing at noon, and that's why there's so many things to offer, which I think same with like what Carol said with different mediums. Each medium works completely different. I mean, nobody works the same that I've even seen. And it's nice. It's a topic for discussion about how many readings you should get in a year. There's different schools of thought. And obviously anything you do in excess is not good. Eating, drinking, anything. But, and doing a reading a day probably wouldn't be advisable. But I don't see anything wrong with, if you've got 3 readings in a 6-month period, but they're from different mediums, because you literally are going to have a whole different experience every time. And, that's your money. You can spend it how you want, and I just feel like the mediums all work differently. And same with the coaches, you get a little different thing going on. So anything you can do to propel yourself to be a better person, to pull yourself out of the trenches and to get yourself back into thriving instead of just existing is a win.
Yeah, definitely. So, Dana, what do you feel is the connection, though, between healing the mind, healing the body, and healing our spirit? Do you feel like there's connected at all?
So that is a great question, because there are 3 bodies at all times, like you mentioned. So we have our physical body, we have our mental body, and then we have our etheric body. Now, working on the physical body, maybe, you're a runner and, you work your grief that way. And, it's very soothing, but you're missing the other 2. So then some people might say, well, I've gone to grief counseling and it's not getting me anywhere. And I always say, it's great, but you're only working the mental body. You're working the mind. You've done nothing for your etheric body. We call it a popo, your luminous light body, which is about 6 feet around you at all times. And that is like a filter that just absorbs negativity and trauma, and all kinds of things get caught in it. So the more you can do to work on your spirit, so anything that would be spiritual, find a good yoga studio nearby and see if they offer. I mean, every yoga studio I know has sound healings, at least once a month. There's breath work. Do some of that. Go see how you feel, and put on a scale of 1 to 10 a number before you get there, and then write on a piece of paper when you leave how you feel. And that'll tell you. Because what happens is none of this lasts. It's like bathing. How often should I bathe? Daily. So if you're not, it's like next day, it's like you start all over. And that's, people go on a retreat and they're like, oh my God, it was so good. I loved it so much. And then 3 months later, they're flipping people off the bird on the highway, like, what happened to that calm zen you had going on? It faded, and it will. So you've got to keep doing the work. It's just like the gym, your physical body. If you don't work, go to the gym or do some yoga or do, some movement every day. And same with your mind. My mom is 84 and she's in a nursing home, and she said, her mind is so sharp. And she says, I challenge myself. She does crossword puzzles daily and her mind is sharp. One of the most important that is overlooked for me is always that spirit, that spiritual.
And I had to giggle because I feel like you're speaking Anthony's other language, which is question everything.
Yeah, totally.
Everything.
I literally question everything, and that's why I don't like one modality. I love a lot of the Hindu practices. I love the mantras, but I also love, the Buddha chants. And then I'll move over, and then I'll go back to my, Kiro Nation Inca, where they're coming in, in the Quechua language, and I'm using all those terms. And I love that. That's what I love. That's how it should be. There shouldn't be just one way. It's what's working for you and how do you feel, and all good. If it comes from a place of pure love and light, it's all good.
It's like you said earlier on, going to different mediums and stuff as well. I love seeing different mediums work, and not to criticize in any way, but just love seeing different energies, how they deliver messages. It's that curiosity where I question everything. I also want to see how everybody does it as well, because there's no right way.
Right.
It's always good to get another perspective.
Yeah.
Deep coaching is very spiritual because people are asking themselves deep questions and they're going into themselves like, why do I exist? Suddenly they realize they have a spirit side, but they mightn't be able to phrase it or put it that way yet, but something is off. And it's what they discover is they've been tending to their physical, their mental, they've been neglecting their spirit side. And it's almost like they discover that, I love that then.
It is part of your responsibility here to kind of just start opening yourself up, cracking yourself open to the spirit world, and knowing that you can, where Anthony works with your spirit team, and I know Carol and Tracy, calling your spirit guides. We all do. We all work with your spirit team and call them in and help you know that you're not walking alone here. Wayne Dyer says, if you knew who walked beside you, you would never have fear in your heart again. There's thousands and thousands or legions of angels, if you want to call them, that are always at your side and always at your beck and call. You can always call upon higher forces to assist you. So do it, and if you need someone to do it on your behalf, and that's where the healers come in, where they'll, you don't feel like you have the tools or the skills, and then hopefully those healers can teach you how to do it so you can do it on your own.
Because anybody can be taught to do this, Dana, right? We're not any more special than anybody else. If we can do it, you can do it too. So I have really enjoyed this discussion, Dana. It's been fascinating. Yeah, hearing everybody's perspectives. I've loved it. Tell us where we can find you.
Yes. So I am at magicdana, all one word.com. There is a free 11-minute wealth codes activation. That's a download. You can download it to any of your devices and listen to that daily to upload the frequency of money and into your entire etheric being. And also on that Magic Dana, you can find all of my 2025 retreat offerings. I've got 3 retreats: California, Sedona, and New York at the Omega Institute.
We thank you so much for coming on. Definitely want to have you back again. I know the others do too, to hear more about healing and your perspective on things. Thank you so much for being our guest. I'm Carol, saying goodbye, along with Anthony,
Salon,
and Tracy.
See ya.
See you next time.
Bye.